everybody. Welcome to another episode of Psychic Zen 333. I'm super excited to be here with my counterpart, Nancy. Everybody say hi to Nancy. Nancy, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
So I was just actually saying to Nancy how excited I am for this episode because on a personal level, I've had my own experiences with anger quite a bit. And a lot of conversations that I had with Nancy were learning how to navigate our way out of it. So as everybody knows here, this is an interactive podcast. If you have any questions, if you have situations that you're stuck on, please write them in the chat boxes that are on the two different platforms, and we will work through them with you in the time span that we have. So, Nancy, would you like to get started on the subject of anger?
Why don't you start?
Okay. So there was a couple different questions that I wrote down on the flyer for how to deal with anger. And it was, how do we slow down and get grounded? How do we get self-control and catch ourselves in the moment? Why do we respond with anger to begin with? And then when guilt and shame show up as an aftermath feeling of anger, how do we process those too? And then how do we deal with other people's anger? And how do we deal with our own anger? So,
okay, it's a good start.
Yeah.
First, I think we have to know what anger is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people think it's an entity. I mean, it's actually, people think of it as an entity because it can be so destructive and, so aggressive. But then people think it's it's a ego reaction and response. And then there's people who feel that they have the right to be angry because something happened and so on. It's a response to a hurt. It's a response to a something that's either hidden or something that has been done or happened, a number of times. Maybe not just in this lifetime, but maybe something we came in with. And it's a response, and it's a very strong emotional response. And it's when the emotions run the thinking rather than the thinking run the emotions. So that's why it happens. Like one of the things you asked, why do we have it just happen? Why are we responding to it? The response is something happens, it triggers something that's inside of us that we haven't dealt with or taken care of. And our reaction is very severe. I mean, especially with anger, it's fear in a severe way. And the anger can be very, very strong. It can last for years. It can be very destructive, and it hurts the person who is angry.
I agree with all of that. But the one thing that I would feel like I would add is that in addition to a response to a hurt, it's also our belief systems are sometimes the culprit. We have a belief inside, an expectation inside. We believe that should be met. And when it's not, we feel hurt or we feel anger, and that anger responds to it. So I think that in my experience and overall, the way to get grounded when you're angry is first ask yourself, what are you mad about? And when you can get to the heart of that, then you can do something as a resolution. Okay, a situation happens. What am I actually upset about? Okay, what's a good resolution for that? And that's a really nice positive solution-oriented cycle to get yourself in so that you don't stir or brood on the anger for a very long time. Also, when the anger comes up, if you go, well, why is it triggering me? What does this remind me of? Because we have past experiences that this situation can be reminding us of and compounding it. So if we have a fear of lack, or we have a limitation, or we believe that somebody felt something towards us or about us, it might make us angry. But then we have to go back and say, well, when I was younger, so and so used to make me feel inadequate, and when this happened, it reminded me of that, so I got mad. And if we could process what the previous thing was, then we won't be triggered going forward. Val says, weirdly, I get angry at myself for letting anger in. Me too, Val. I've had the same experience because you know better and then you still bring it in anyway.
Well, again, any kind of, the separation, anytime we have a separation from ourself in our real self, anytime we have a separation from someone else or an event, we don't like the events. There's a lot of people upset, about politics right now, and a lot of people defending it, going back and forth, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And very little tolerance in a lot of places. And but it's an emotion. It's an emotion response. It's an emotional response. That's why you might be just fine. All of a sudden, somebody says something or does something, or something happens, and all of this rage can come out. Or if it's not rage, it can be anger to whatever degree it is. But it's going to be unpleasant, and anger is a destroyer. Its job is to destroy. It's a weapon, and most wars have started through anger. I mean, everybody, everyone has. I can't imagine too many people that haven't experienced anger. And being upset with someone, and being upset with self for being angry, like you said, you mentioned it. The main thing is to understand it, to understand why am I reacting to this, and I haven't resolved it, obviously, if I'm being angry.
Right.
So, and people feel very justified in their anger. I mean, there's a justification that goes along with that. But it's not logic or reason. It's a dead candle. It's a candle that's not lit, trying to solve a problem that's very, very strong and very emotionally, being felt. So anything that's a dead candle is not going to solve the problem, because more of it, it's a very strong response to something that is inside of us that we don't like. We think it's at the other person, or the other event. We think that and then we can be angry at ourselves. I mean, just like she said, the anger can be pointed at ourselves. And why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that. I wish I hadn't done that. And it can eat away at us. And I can be, a lot of people are angry at themselves, period. I mean, that's a very common thing. And being angry at oneself is just not understanding that we were brought here to experience and make mistakes and overcome them and learn from it. It's a lesson. It's not meant to be it's not meant to be a trial and tribulation to somebody. And it's not meant to be used as one against somebody. And, there's a lot of anger. I mean, if you were abused and abused and abused and abused and abused, after a while, you're going to probably have a deep-seated anger to something like that. And eventually, it's unfair. It's not right, especially if you're a child and it's a parent or somebody that has control over you. And but the anger it's running rampant right now. It's absolutely running rampant, in my opinion. And there's so much anger out there, and people who are angry are trying to make other people angry, and they're teaching anger, and they're showing anger, and they're demonstrating anger. So we've got a lot of, and we're attracted to people who are angry are attracted, others who are angry are attracted to that person because they feel justified. It just justifies their aggressiveness behavior.
So there's a couple of different questions here, Nancy, and I just want to dovetail into what you just said with some things that you taught me. One, like when I go through anger, I go, is it a state of being that's helping me? No. Do I like it? No. Do I feel good? No. Do I want to feel good? Yes. And I make that kind of emphatic silliness because I use almost like a humor to look at the anger and say, okay, well, I want to be who do I want to be right now in this moment? And we can be who we want to be at any given moment. What do we want to be? So one of the things that you taught me is if anger or a situation external to us, even internal from the ego, could be the storm. But if we want to have peace and clarity and love and healing, we need to go to the eye of the storm and treat it like an elevator and go up to get a bird's eye view of it, or to just vibrate out of it entirely and not even let it bother us. And that's huge for me. I use that technique constantly. So if there's a benefit from that. Also, one of the things, like with Val saying and myself saying, I get mad at myself that's a learned behavior. And a lot of us have learned conditions that if we were trying to learn something or let's say a condition, our parents maybe, when we were in the process of getting our conditions given to us growing up, if we had a short patient parent or a parent that had a lot going on, and this is just a for instance, maybe they needed us to learn very quickly in a short amount of time because other circumstances depended on it. When we didn't learn, they got frustrated with us. So now when we do something that we're not happy with, now we are the people who are getting mad at ourselves. So we always have to take a look at what conditions cultivated my mindset towards something, and how can I find my way out of them. It's always coming back to, who do I want to be? What do I want to experience? Where is it coming from? That line of questioning can help you navigate that reality.
And again, you're a person who wants the higher level, and there are many people on this earth right now that are not thinking of that. A lot of people want revenge, or they have anger. All they know is they're responding to something, and they're responding in a very negative way, and it's got a real issue attached to it. And it's very hard to talk to someone when they're in anger. It's very difficult to change their mind right away.
Agreed. So there's a whole conversation that's
they're going to defend it.
There's a whole conversation that's going on here, Nancy, that I'm going to rope you in on. So Denise says, when I get angry, I stop and think, what part did I play in it? Ryan says, looking at the physio-energetic system with centers and meridians, the nature of anger being explosive or seething, I see a king toes, where clear flowing is restricted, a blockage, a kink, or a tightening exists, where the trigger isn't a problem, nor of its being triggered. And Ash responds, Nancy, what do you think about the theory of we are going into separate earths, either like heaven on earth or hell on earth? I heard about this being at 2050 when we split. Can I please have your thoughts on this? And then
I believe that there's truth in that. I think the earth is splitting. I think we're gravitating towards what, if people could maybe look at things, I'm not saying they should, but maybe if they had an opportunity to look at something to be, instead of thinking yay or nay, wrong or right, good or bad, I don't think in those terms anymore for a long time. It's what works or what doesn't.
Exactly.
And
that.
What people don't understand, when you have that kind of stress and that kind of anger, and especially if it lasts, there are people that don't talk to each other for years, family members, a lot of people. There was something that happened 20,000 years ago, and 10 years ago, or whatever, 5 years ago, and they're still angry. It's not been resolved. It hasn't been forgiven. It hasn't been resolved in any way. So they stay angry, and the anger is poison. It's absolute poison. It's poison to the mind. It's poison to the body. It's poison to everyone else who has to be around it. The anger it's very common, but it doesn't solve any problems, and it has a lot of consequences.
I agree. Nance,
yes, I do think the earth is splitting.
I agree. Sorry, I was reading the comments, listening to you, and the one thing I wanted to add too. So Ryan says, Nance, I feel like, where is this? I feel like maybe mini traumas where we want and need energy to flow, but it becomes bottled up or buried deep. The initial knot in its awareness becomes the true issue. If I feel happy, but happy can't flow, then it's the knot needing to be untied. So I like this maybe metaphor, the symbolism of it. And it brings me to the next question I have, Nancy, is there's a difference between anger and forgiveness. And then when somebody has unhealthy habits and we have to separate them out of our lives, but still not be angry or come to a place of peace, which is kind of a delicate scenario. Can you guide us through what, that? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
I believe I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we have to have people out of our lives because of their behavior, but we want them in our lives.
We can make decisions, if you want to call it protect ourselves, or to step aside, or to avoid avoid something that we see going to be a problem. It has nothing to do with the action. It won't hurt. It's not poison. It's not going to be a negative thing. If we have the ability to let go of the problem, not take it so seriously, not take it that it's the last word on the planet and I'll never hear another word, I'll never go through another thing, and this has been it, it's the most terrible thing happened to me, and I won't have, when you get dramatic and you get past that, take it so seriously that it'll never be, that person will never change. It's one of their favorite things that everybody says, a lot of people say, that'll never change. I'm sitting there going, well, I hope you're wrong. I hope that's not the case. For your sake, I hope it's not the case. Because, again, how do we step away from things without being angry? Well, there's only one way. We have to understand that whatever that person did, we probably did it sometime in ourselves. Because I wouldn't even recognize it if it weren't inside of me, if the hurt weren't inside of me, if I hadn't had some kind of an experience with it, then chances are, I wouldn't have, I wouldn't be so upset about it.
Yeah.
So I either had it happen to me, or I did it, or I had it in a past life. I had it in another time zone, someplace, somewhere. It's an issue, and sometimes hypnosis can help. Sometimes, I'm a great believer of stepping aside, counting to 10 before you say something, because words are weapons, and when you're angry, words come out. They're weapons. And people remember it longer than whatever the situation was. I mean, a lot of times people won't, if they had forgiven it, long afterwards, it's not even relevant anymore, and they're still angry.
Yeah.
Because of something that happened in the past. So it's about not having an attachment, getting rid of attachments, getting rid of expectations, getting rid of, if you understand, if anyone understands that in this Aquarian age, that love is the only answer. Well, if you really, really understand the truth of that, it's a vibration and it's a frequency of the universe. So other things aren't going to work. I mean, derivatives of love are part of that, but everything has to be resolved from a loving way. Loving myself, as an example, loving myself enough that I'm not going to hold on to this. Loving myself enough that I'm not going to argue with myself and buy into everything that other person said when they were angry. Yeah. Loving myself enough that I'm not going to retaliate and become angry too because someone got angry at me and has this fire. We just had tonight, we had this guy who's a bartender here, but we were at a restaurant and he did fireballs. He took and lit his fingers and had this fire shoot out. And I was thinking, it's just the way anger is. It was, I mean, he didn't do it out of anger. He did it out of demonstration, but it was a great demonstration for tonight because no one had control over it. I mean, it just flared out. And I guess there's a show that they do like that. But anyway, it was very interesting because that's the way anger is. It just flares out. And you can sit there and try to bottle it up and I'm not going to be angry. I'm going to be bigger than this. I'm going to do this. Try not, whenever you have to try hard to do something, good luck.
Yep.
Call on the higher angels. Call on your, breathe. Call on the source. Call on help. Call on, a different understanding. Or I'll tell you one thing I've done. I started doing this. I did it once and it worked. And then I was amazed how well it works. So I do it every once in a while. I've asked, when something really hurts, when someone has done something, betrayals, and backstabbing or betrayals of any way, or, targeting someone, that's what dark does, is target people and stuff. Whenever somebody, if it's a person, it's someone that someone's close to, one of the things I did, I started asking Source to show me that my logic was, Source, I know you know the circumstances. I know how you know that I'm hurt. I know you know this other person. Show me the way you see it. Let me see how you would see this person and how you would see this situation. And you can get, by doing that, it's amazing. You can get a perspective that you never would have thought of, that you would never know. You would never even dreamed of. And you would sit there and have compassion instead of the anger.
Yeah.
I've done it a number of times, and it works. I mean, it really does work. God, show me this from your perspective. Let me know from your idea how to handle this, or let me know what happened here, this betrayal. Let me understand it. Give me something that I can work with, that I can let go of it.
I just keep smiling because of all the years where, you know, anger was a big problem for me in a previous life, and Nancy was the diffusion for so many circumstances. And you know, it's interesting because when I started the very beginning working with Nancy, there was no such thing as raising your voice or acting out in temple, which was different for me because I came from a very like vocal household where like emotions could fly at any minute. And temple was really calm, and talking to Nancy was really calm. And you're not bringing ego into the situation. You're really going to get to the heart of the matter, diffuse it, get into a solution, and process it, which was revolutionary to my mind at the time. And just all the experiences of me calling Nancy and being like, okay, love is the answer, but
yeah, there's oftentimes the but, and again, there's a lot of really not nice things that are happening and have happened, you know, and a lot of things that are hard to justify. And so everyone says, well, I have the right to feel this way to themselves or maybe to someone else. No one's questioning their right to make that decision. It's a choice.
Yes.
And the choice is, I don't think dark, I'm not going to feed dark. Okay, here's the, you know, this is going to be a little controversial for some of you, but maybe not. The negative energies cannot feed themselves. They do not have energy. They have to feed off of negativity of people. That's why you get the chatter, and that's why it stirs up things, and that's why all these negative things happen. People want to know, why do these things happen? Because there's negative energies that have to have these negative things. Well, part of it's for learning and understanding, but another part is these energies cannot feed off of themselves. They can't make their own energy. They don't have energy. They're starving for energy. So they eat, you know, we feed them when we get angry. We feed them when we go through fear. We feed them in separation. We feed them unknowingly, hopefully unknowingly, but nevertheless, we feed them. And you may have heard me say this at some time. I ask people sometimes, did you make a dessert? Did you make a full course meal? Or
yes, you used to say that to me a lot. What did you make for dessert?
And I ask myself, well, I really made a dinner for them. I'm getting so upset. I just fed them a lot, and I refuse to feed them. I refuse to do anything that feeds those energies. So I will ask, I will go out, I'm like you, I will be tenacious, and I will ask, how can I resolve this, or how can I let go of it?
Yeah. And
one way to let go of it, I asked what I said before. I remember once there was a person unlawfully doing a lawsuit against myself. Well, I was included, and it was against my husband at the time. And I went with Scott, my stepson, who's an attorney, and I looked at him, and I just had a compassion for him. And I asked the reason I had compassion for this person that was going to do this was because I understood. I mean, all I did was ask, God, how do you see this person? You know, both of us, how do you see it? How do you see the situation? And I had empathy. I saw something in their past that gave me empathy. I was not included. My name was left off this lawsuit because I didn't judge.
That's so beautiful. I remember.
It's beautiful, yeah. But I think it's more the lesson I learned from it too.
Yeah.
Because if love is the only answer, it is not unnatural for people to do something that are going to be, not in alignment with the way we think or what we want or how we feel and so on. But we learn from our parents too, how they treated, how did they deal with stress?
Exactly that.
So, I mean, that comes, a child, is learning from a mentor, one other things. But there are many children that grew up in angry homes that they don't want any part of anger.
That's right.
They learned, they saw it, and they learned. So again, I go back to a lot of things that we don't like, and it's a very strong lesson, anger. And it's very dramatic at times, and it can be very dramatic. It's spontaneous. It just comes in and rolls with something. And it can be over something we don't even remember or we don't even know that's inside of us. So if we take, and like you said, like we were talking about earlier, if we take and understand or look for all we need to do is understand. We don't even have to find out what it is. Please take away the source that makes, the hurt that would make me be angry like this.
Yeah.
Please don't let me attract other people's anger by my being angry. There are people who are angry all the time. What a life. I feel so bad, if they're getting a joy out of it, I guess that's their business, but they don't have peace. They don't have harmony. They don't see things bright. Everything is negative. They got hurt once, and by God, we're going to pay and pay and pay and pay for it. And that, my question to that, I just had someone do this in a way, and she was really angry at herself. She was angry at what happened and so on. And I'm not saying she didn't have the right to be, uncomfortable with what happened, but she's going to punish herself. I asked her, I said, okay, now that you're angry and you're going to, she's punishing herself for something that she's misreading it. She actually got liberated from the situation instead of, punished by not being there. She wouldn't leave, so it was a work thing. And they were abusing her. She wouldn't leave. She was very talented, and she wouldn't leave, so she kept staying there because of the benefits. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that. I understand the premise of it, but the interesting thing is, I said, okay, so you might try it for yourself, or anybody can try this for someone. Okay, why are you going through this self-punishment? Why are you going through this anger towards yourself? What are you getting out of it? It's serving a purpose. What's the purpose? And she didn't see it necessarily that way. I said, okay, do you want to continue this anger towards yourself? Do you want to stay in this situation where you're punishing yourself and going through all this agony? Do you want to stay in it for a day? Do you want to stay in it for a week? Do you want to stay in it for the next month? How much time do you need to work your way through this?
Yeah.
We agreed on a week. So she called today and she was in it. She was better, but she was still in it a little bit. And I said, well, you still have your week left. You're not through the week yet.
There's an addictive quality, I think, to anger, because you had mentioned there's people who grow up in an angry household, they don't want the anger. People who grow up in an angry household, they repeat it. And then I feel like there's a fusion of it where you can be in a household that has a lot of anger, not want anger, but then also because you took on the belief system, the mannerisms, the mindset, whatever was the kind of perpetrator in it, to respond that way. So like, I'm a very peaceful person, but far and few times in between when my anger gets riled, I respond like my mother when she was like super stressed out, and I'll be like, oh, and then I go, wait, and it dawned on me recently, so because there's a poem that's called from Rudyard Kipling called If, and it says, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds, run. And I say that to myself as soon as I get angry. I pause. I let nothing come out of my mouth because I know I don't want to put it out there. And then if it does come out, usually I'm already in a frustrated, in pain, some kind of something is already funky to bring the anger out of me. And then I go, well, my mom just came out of my mouth. And then I go, well, it's a learned behavior. Where did she get it from? She got it from her father. So if we have to get
generational, a lot of it's generational. Yes.
Getting conscious of, okay, if I don't want that, and I think about it too for the results, and I don't know if other people are going to resonate with this, but I go, well, if my grandfather had a heart attack at 56 and my mom had a heart attack at 42, I don't want to have a heart attack because of stress or angry or frustration. I love my body.
It's poison.
Yeah.
It's not only about people being angry about people. You can be angry about events.
Right.
Why did this happen? Why did this happen to me? One of the people that are listening tonight, I think, I don't have it in front of me, but Jennifer was going to see if she could tap in tonight. But she's not an angry person. I mean, all of her life she had the fire in her house, and she had all kinds of stuff, and she doesn't have anger. She's not in that anger because she understands that it doesn't serve or doesn't solve any of the problems. And now, her mother, my sister, just passed. So she's, she handles it, she works with it, and she goes through it. It's hard, but, and I heard a few people say to me, aren't you angry? Aren't you angry because, you had all these people that passed in the last couple months and couple of years. No, I'm not angry. I'm hoping to celebrate them.
There's a question.
I don't think I'm being picked on because, somebody else passed away. And, if we feel like, this is part of what happened in the wars of the heavens and so on, that, there is no God. God doesn't answer my prayers. I've done this and this and this, and God's never there, and it never works, and it doesn't do this, and it doesn't do that. First of all, it's not our slave. But second of all, if we're in the right frequency, we can have everything we ever wanted.
That's true.
And when we're in that lower frequency, doesn't matter what reason I'm feeding those negative, that negative energy, and I'm feeding it and making it grow and big. I just gave it a big dose of juice, and so on. It's not going to solve the problem. The problems can't be solved that way.
That's true.
It will not do anything but do more harm.
Well, that's what I think about with anger. I walk myself through it sometimes. If I'm really, really angry, I go, okay, so what are you going to do, Teresa? This happened. You feel like this. Let's just indulge the ego internally for a moment. What would you respond with? Well, I would do this. Okay, great. And then they would do what? And then you would do, and they would, and to what end? Like, there's nothing beneficial that's going to come out of it. You're going to hurt, you're gonna take hurt and you're gonna make it a volleyball, and you're gonna pitch it back and forth until the hurt really hurts too much, and then you're gonna be sorry. So before you get going in the game of volleyball, just nip it in the bud right now and get to the heart of the matter about what you really want out of the situation. You want peace, you want love, you want fairness, you want equality. You also need to understand that not everybody's put on this planet to be what you want them to be, and they're not going to be there for you. You may not get the apology, or they may not understand the person that you are. That's when you celebrate yourself and celebrate like-minded people, and not need somebody to validate you or your emotions for the sake of you being able to move past that emotion. And I think that's a really important way to kind of see it or navigate it.
Forgiveness is made. It's not, forgiveness is not, this is a Nancyism. This is my interpretation of forgiveness. The reason that forgiveness exists in as far as a way to handle things and what to do is because we judged. And we judge something good or bad, right or wrong. We judge instead of recognizing that for what is good for one may be not good for another, and what is right for one is not necessarily the law of the land of another country. Yep. So we are, we're unique. We have all these different situations. There's going to be things that happen that we don't like. There's going to be people who say things that we're not going to be happy with. And if it's a dark force, its job is to separate first, to bring in the anger, to have, to defame, to ridicule, the other side, to make fun of it and ridicule it and make it look bad, to do all these bad, really negative things. Mm-hmm. And so if I fall for it, I'm never going to get out of the rabbit hole.
Never.
Eventually, you got to get to the place where you make a decision. It's your choice whether you're going to continue it, or you're going to find out a way to bring peace and harmony to it. And that's another reason to pray highest for your enemy. Because they're the ones that need it most. For you, for us, whoever that is or whatever that is. That's what needs my light the most right now. I mean. Not the most, like more than another, but needs the attention.
Well,
and instead of being hating somebody or being angry and do all that, it's a waste of time. It's totally a waste of time.
Absolutely. There's a question that's here and also a statement. So I'm going to make the statement quick first. The light bringers bring in the light. And that's what you taught me, where it's like there's I'm a light being, I'm a star seed. It doesn't matter what you are, it doesn't matter where you came from. A light bringer brings the light. It matters what you do in any of these given situations. When we decide to not give in to the temptation of the lower vibrational frequency, and we can create clarity around it for ourselves, and that's a benefit, and for the other, which is a benefit, then we neutralize the situation and bring peace and harmony into it, which serves us both.
And why can we do that? Because we're powerful.
Yeah.
Light, the dark has to bend to light. And no matter what it looks like, I don't care what it looks like or what it seems like, or the dark getting away with that. I just had a lot of that happen with people this last week, where, I don't understand. I do all these things, and everybody who does all the wrong things win, and they get away with it, and they don't have. Well, time's not up yet.
Right.
We're not out of this yet. It hasn't. The end day hasn't happened yet. It could happen to individual people, but it hasn't happened yet. So light, dark has to bend to the light, and the reason that there's no war in that is because it's an absolute law of the universal law.
Yes. Jennifer is here too, by the way.
We can argue about universal law. That was where the War of the Heavens came in, arguing about universal law being, absolute or not. Everybody can argue with it all they want to. For me, I don't need to argue with it. I already know it is.
Right.
It's just a matter of time.
Well, it's also the confidence that what you're just holding to, even if the external isn't revealing.
There's a difference between belief systems and knowing.
Right. So
ask for the knowing.
Yes.
If people have that feeling, I understand where that perception could be, thought of. I mean, I do. I understand, because they don't realize that they're attracting, the negative. But people don't want to take responsibility a lot of times for that. But I understand where that comes from, but it's not accurate.
Correct. Val would like you to explain the earth splitting.
Well, the splitting, it doesn't have to be a literal, like the Mother Earth taking off in two different directions, and so on. The splitting, well, I think first the splitting is going to be people that make the choice to love, peace, and harmony, and then the negative can't touch them. Then there's people who believe strongly in doing all the harm and all the stuff that we were just talking about, and so on, and following the wrong, I shouldn't say wrong, following the side of negative, experience, and so on. And eventually it's an illusion. So, anger is an illusion. So is, all the negativity, it's an illusion. The ego is an illusion. So anytime that we follow the ego and it's there, anytime I make a choice, I have two choices. I can choose the negative, or I can choose the love or the positive. I can choose the real, or I can choose the false. Right. And the illusion. I have a choice on there is not one problem, not one thing that faces us. And I just had this conversation all week this week. There's not one thing, one problem that doesn't have both choices, the negative and the positive. So that's sort of like splitting the earth. It's just that we're on Earth. These are Earth issues, going through all the stuff like floods and tornadoes and, all these different aspects, volcanoes, all kinds, earthquakes, going through all these things. It seems like, why would God, it's a pretty popular idea. Why would God allow this? Why did God allow darkness? Why did it even allow it to take place? They had one age to prove their point because of free will. And that age was the Pisces age. That's over.
Does that come from the original fall?
The original fall.
Right.
So, why would God allow it? Because it didn't want us to be ignorant. We were not just to know the universal laws, because even if we had done them very well, we were to understand why they're in place. There's a difference to the understanding that what I think, I'm going to get back. I mean, I'm going to draw, I'm going to magnetize. The world is a magnetic, I mean, the energy is magnetic. So the magnetic energy, whatever I think or do, is going to come back to me. And the reason it was because the lesson was for me. The lesson was for me to understand, I'm a creator. I'm powerful. I create what I get. What do I want? What do I want to create? How do I want to create it? Where do I want to change it? Okay, I created this and I found out I don't want that. I don't like it. Doesn't feel good. Okay, so how do I create something that's the opposite of that?
Agree.
And so it's a, we went through this whole war about, there's many universal laws, quite a few of them. Do unto others as you would want done to you. Well, you find out if you don't do it, you're going to get it back. Something's going to happen. And if you don't want it and you don't like it, and if you have the understanding to understand that it's a double standard to do it to someone else and not expect it being done back to you, the double standard doesn't, we're in duality, but the double standard doesn't work.
Right.
It just doesn't work. I mean, it's not good, bad, right or wrong, or fair or unfair. It doesn't work. And it's not going to work.
But there's that lesson that you gave me when we learned about self-love, and you said everything in the world is responding to your relationship with you, but it's the magnets that we have inside as well. It's everything that's living inside of us, metaphysically, energetically, vibrationally, the frequencies that we have, everything inside of our body. It doesn't cease to exist. We can't hide it from the universe and say, well, don't look over here in this left armpit, and just look at the rest of the body. It's all of us, whatever we have going on is what the universe is responding to. So if there is anger, sadness, frustration, it's going to show up like in your money relationship and how you are able to hold on to it or receive it. It's going to show up in your relationships that you have with other people. It's going to show up at the relationships that you have at work or romantically or with your children or that you have with source. Because a lot of times anger creates separation, and separation creates doubt, and then it goes through the cycle of the lower dimensions. So if you
the person that asked that question, is going to be on the side that nothing can touch her. Not anything. The split is you're on the fifth dimension, on the high fourth and fifth and higher dimensions, and whatever is happening you will be whole and then the higher level, and it has to be that way, because otherwise if I'm going through something, I'll be less likely to improve the situation for others.
That's right.
Because we came to serve, because we came to help people, because we came to get the human race through this time period, because that was our purpose and our goal, and we brought in, and it sent the best. Whatever our MO is, we're the best at whatever it is, whatever that is. So we're trying to get home. We're trying to get back to that person that we really are, the real part of us. That's the Christ energy. We're trying to get back to the person who is, beyond all these illusion things and so on and everything. And to get into a higher place and consistently be in the higher place so we can help.
Right. That was definitely one of the things that you taught us, where, if we go in to help a situation, if we take our master energy and we contribute it toward the situation, now everybody in the room is a victim, or everyone in the room is in a lower dimensional frequency. Somebody has to be there to not feed into the story and hold the space of clarity. And because I felt like that was a big wake-up moment and therefore a responsibility, I valued being able to be that person in the room that when a situation was unfolding, instead of to feed into it emotionally, stand back and go, well, what's really happening here? Where's the communication breakdown, or where's the belief system or the vantage point that's contributing to these things, so that I don't feed it emotionally or accidentally judge. And that was huge for me, because then when I was in the situation, I was able to learn how to use it for myself.
And it doesn't mean, service does not mean that I'm going to be saving people and taking on their karma and doing all the stuff that was in the last age. Okay, and all that stuff ended.
Mm-hmm.
It can be that I'm just lighting up. I'm having fun. I enjoy. I'm showing what the real God is. I'm at peace. I'm at harmony. I'm breathing. I'm breathing. I'm using the God breath within me. I'm getting the answers, and I'm just a big lighthouse. Maybe I'm not doing a single thing, but I could be by myself on an island lighting up, and I'd still be doing my service.
And let me tell you what, that would be the most illuminated island on the planet.
I don't know. You're too kind, but I don't know. But
Jennifer,
there would be some light coming out of it for sure.
Jennifer is here, and she says, "I just love you so much, Aunt Nancy. Your words and wisdom help so much. I will never be a feeder." And Val says, "Teresa, where have you and your wonderful guest been all my life? This older lady is learning so much. It's like you all know what I need to hear."
Tell her that she's learned a lot, and she wouldn't have made it this far if she hadn't. But tell her that it's only, I was thinking about age today. I was really thinking about that, because my goal is agelessness, right?
Right.
To be ageless,
yes.
And so on. Why? I don't know, because I don't know how long I'm going to be here, and I don't like the concepts of aging that came, dark made up those concepts, not light.
Right.
And they decided about death, not light. So I don't feel like I have to obey their concepts. So I was just thinking about that. How long am I going to be here? I have no clue. I just hope that I'm still doing everything I need to do. And if it means being on an island, lining up and just sitting there and being a lighthouse, okay.
I could totally see it. You'd be the brightest island.
No, I don't. I mean, I'd rather be doing things with people. But,
yeah, of course.
But I don't think we have the idea of doing service is different in this age. It's an age of light. Each person has the source in them. Each person has peace in them. Every single person, no matter what they've done, what they could have done, would have done, should have done, and all that other stuff, the good, the bad, the ugly, the this, the that, it doesn't matter. That divine energy is in their breath, the same as everyone else. And they can change. How long will, people say they'll never change. And I keep saying, I hope they're wrong.
Right,
right. I hope that's not the truth. You're going to wish that's not the truth. And, how long would it take to change someone if the source really wanted to change someone? A snap of the finger.
Right. You're manifesting.
That fast.
And
you can have an epiphany that fast.
That's the clarity in the anger. That's the elevator that you get into, is when we say always and never, already it's an extreme, and the ego's there. Boom. This never happens for this, or this always is like that. Okay, you're in ego right away. So taking the ability to say, okay, moving out of that language. Okay, this happens sometimes. This happened and upset me. This happens frequently, but it's not all the time. Be mindful that you're a creator, and that even in the anger or the emotion, you are contributing to what you're manifesting and creating, and it holds sway in your life.
I know someone who was angry because they got hit by a car.
I don't know. Who could that be?
And I know someone I know a couple of people that got hit from the back end of the car. I know a few people that actually that happened a couple of times, and then had to go through the painstaking, trying to get the car fixed, trying to get over not feeling good, and then having to keep up with all the daily lives and so on, and it just doesn't seem fair. I mean, it's just not fair. Someone else hit me, and then I have to go through all this and so on. And again, the only way, you and I both know, but the only way that can be brought into maybe an easier understanding. What did I learn from that?
That's right.
how did I learn to keep my peace, which that person did? How did I learn to keep my peace and get my equilibrium, and get everything done? I went to the angels. They helped me. I went to I went to the resurrection angel, and all of a sudden, one day, everything just fell into place. Oh my gosh, I got all this done.
So true. That's the trip part. It's like, that's what Val was talking about earlier. Like, obviously it's me who got in the car accident, and just dealing with all the different things. The root of it is, so going through that process was, okay, first of all, I think when you're in pain, when you're not clear-minded,
oh yes,
that immediately siphons,
pain can hurt.
Like puts you into that lower space, because you're not yourself, and therefore you're cranky. And then things that normally would not bother you suddenly do bother you. And then you're the magnet. So if it stacks and these things happen, and you look at these situations and you're like, wow, this, to me, some of these situations that were happening were like, this just hurts my heart, that there's, in my mind, in my belief system, like, there's a lack of humanity in here, and I don't like that. And it's kept snowballing until I lovingly brought my snowball to Nancy and said, hey, can you want to melt?
I have to say that last part.
Hey, do you want to melt a snowman? Like.
No, but the only reason that we have friends, and we have family, and we have people who are like nature, if you want to call it that.
Right.
And the beauty of that is it's a team. So with what one doesn't think of, maybe the other one will.
1,000%.
Or one's field of experience may be different, and maybe just what that other person needs. Even though this is all inside of us, each person has the answer inside of them, and they have the power to heal themselves, and they have the power to be there and do it all on their own. The nice thing about it is we don't have to.
Right. And
it for me, it's all about quickening.
Yes.
It's all about, if I ask, I have no problem asking for help. You know that.
Yes.
I think anybody knows me knows that. I never wanted to do this by myself. Never said I did. So anyway, but I have no problem asking, God, the divine, using the divine, or people, or getting, different people's opinion. If you're going to get opinion, though, it would be good to go to someone that's got the answer, but or has some experience with it. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that camaraderie. I just can't even say that word. Anyway, is that we're not alone. We have others that can help. We've got all kinds of people read books, self-help books. They watch movies. They have, YouTube is a big help to many, and so on. We're not here by ourselves, and we don't have to be.
I agree.
And if I need to do it by myself, and if it's something I need to do on my own and by myself, then I will be doing it by myself, and I'll get the answer. But it's going to take the person that does it on their own, unless they get an aha moment or get epiphany.
Exactly.
Which is getting it from somewhere else, right?
That's
it's going to take them longer than having people, a company of truth, where you have people around you that everyone is working together and trying to get things done, and has their own aha information to share.
I agree. I mean, I've been praising my friends the entire time, because I'm calling you, or I'll call Ash or Andrea or Peter, and we will talk about the things that are happening. I said, is all the answers inside of me? Yes. But do I get by with my friends? Absolutely. Because your friends being in that like-minded, loving space. I mean,
if they are.
I have a very wonderful collection of beautiful people. I know you do,
but I'm just saying, for the average, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
If they have someone that can, help, why would I want to do it by myself?
Right.
Just to say, and sometimes we do need to do it by ourselves.
That's
because
true,
we need to learn that we can do it. Because you got to be careful too. You might have some situation where, well, I know that so-and-so can do it, but I don't know that I can.
Right.
So it's not a one way answer.
Right, exactly that. And there was certain parts of going through the accident that I did have to meditate on my own and get to the answer, and all of that does build experience. But it's like building a muscle. You go to the spiritual gym and you lift your you lift yourself closer to God or higher in vibration, and then those are the muscles or the wisdom or the experience that you now have in any given situation that helps you continue on your journey and give you, like, sustain you what you need in the moment and going forward. I just want to point this out to you. Val had said, thank you, by the way, for the healing energy and the resurrection angels. Her husband had double pneumonia and is now doing much better, stronger, and breathing much better. She didn't have any idea how it could be, but he's doing much better and she's thankful.
Great.
Yeah. It's so fun.
A little bit of knowledge can help. So, that's the neat thing about it,
Yeah, it's really nice.
And he would not have, if he were not the person he is and the strength of the man that he is, he may have had a different outcome from that. But he was and is. He did the healing.
That's right.
He's the one who did the healing.
That's so true. And it's so nice too, like even in the comments, like, because we're all, every Wednesday we meet here and we have this beautiful team going, and it's so nice. Like previous episode, Denise was talking about how her radiation was being healed by the resurrection angels. Val's husband, of course everyone has to be available to their own healing, but it's so nice to see that just by having this nice love fest between us all, we're able to plug into each other and be support and inspiration and knowledge. And even people chatting in the different platforms tonight, they're just pinging back and forth about like what they've learned or what they've gone through, or whatever positive loving thing. It's been so nice. And then what's next? So Ryan says, I survived a car crash miraculously that earned the local emergency services a singular award distributed by New York State annually. It definitely takes a village to recover.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. You said it. Say that again.
He says, I survived a car crash miraculously that earned the local emergency services a singular award distributed by New York State annually. He said it takes the village. So meaning that like the village that came to assist him, like his accident was so bad, or the shape he was in, so him being able to get better was a miraculous thing.
Yes. And he did it.
Yeah. Yes.
And they helped him. They gave him the opportunity to do it.
Yes. It's so nice to see the support that comes. Like there's one comment that comes in and then like a flurry of like follow-up comments. It's like, yeah, right. Woohoo! So beautiful.
It is.
Yes. I love that we do this. This is so great. So does anybody have questions? Is there something that they're stuck on, or a situation that they have that they're processing that they'd like Nancy or I or the crew that's here to comment on? Ryan says, exemplary service to be modeled is the nature of that award. Aw, that's really awesome. It's great that you were able to make it through that. And it's really wonderful that the village that you're in was able to come to your aid when you needed it and participate in you getting through the situation. And then, okay, one more actually, while we're waiting on questions, Nance, the splitting of the earth, it happens energetically first, and then if the potential is there for its hologram versus physical.
It's going to be, how we are turning into astro beings, right?
Right.
That we're moving into a higher dimension, and we're more etheric now than we used to be, or
correct.
The human being. It's, first of all, the other is just dense energy, right? I mean, it's dense.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're becoming more light-bodied.
That's right.
And the light body is a different body. It looks the same. It looks like, we look the same and so on. But the light body is changing and crystallizing itself differently. Well, the earth is doing the same thing.
Right.
So I think the Earth is doing the same thing. So you have the Earth splitting, if you want to call it splitting. It's leaving its density, and it's, I think a lot of the weather stuff is that part of that process. And it's going to be more lighthearted. The skies are going to be bluer. I don't know. I don't want to make
scenario,
an illusion out of this.
Yeah.
But everything is brighter. Everything looks different. It's the same thing, but looks different.
Ash,
and I think that's part of the split.
I mean, Ash and I, because Ash is here with us, we're already talking about, because we work in the psychic realm a lot, we feel that there was a shift. It's noticeable in the way that we work, the way that we get messages, the lighterness that we feel. So she's asking a question to you, Nancy. What happens to the people who pass before the end of the split?
They're already going into that energy. They're already into a different energy. When you leave here and you're not here anymore, you're somewhere else.
Right.
Remember, I keep saying,
if you're not here, you're somewhere else. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they're already somewhere else, and that energy is already there. Earth was a third dimensional, being. It was a planet. All of our planets in our universe were third dimension.
Mm-hmm.
So I shouldn't say that. That's not really true. Okay. Fourth, third and fourth dimension, second, third, and fourth. We have the, whole universe is different. Everything's different. It's new, brand new, old. It's got billions and 1 year. I mean, I shouldn't have tried to say it only had this, because it didn't. It had a lot of different things.
So just to clarify,
it's a lot of different things.
Earth is going through a photon belt. We were in third. Now we just went into lower fourth.
Well, we're trying to get out of third, but third is it's not a space. It's not just a space. It's dimensions are consciousness.
Right.
And people, I've had people ask, well, what happens to the people who don't aren't changing? Everybody can change. Anyone will have time to change. It might be some people first and before others, but everyone's going to have a chance.
Right. And you're going to change here in the physical, or you're going to cross over.
Well,
and change
not
over
everybody.
There, no?
Some people just go. They just leave. That's why a lot of people leave.
So that they don't have to change.
You have a choice. I mean, you sort of chose before you got here what you were going to do.
So if you cross over before...
If you cross over, then there's a whole bunch of spaces, just like... If it's about learning lessons, and let's say you crossed over and you have lessons to learn, then you'll go to another place that has the same lessons available.
Gotcha. Okay.
There's teaching planets. There's this planet, that planet. There's healing planets. There's so many variations, just like what we have. I personally, this is an Nancyism again, but I personally believe or know, or for me it might be known, to everybody else would be believe. About me believing, not them. But I think we have something of everything that's in our universe right here on Earth. I think that's why Earth, the one reason why Earth is so important.
Special. Yeah.
I think it has an example of every single thing that's in our universe here.
That's why it's so diverse and so many
that's
different
why
beings
it's
come
diverse,
here.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so special.
But I know we have observers. I know we have people, and their job isn't to go through everything. They go through what they want. And the reason they don't have to go through everything is because they came here from another time zone, or they came here from another place to observe what we're going through, because maybe their planet will be going through that too.
That's true. And that's another
thing, everything.
That's about perception too. Like we have a being.
We got teachers, we got healers, we got this, we got that.
Like,
and we got people just trying to figure out, how to find themselves.
Yeah. So like, that's a really good example. I was speaking to someone earlier, and we were talking about, what looks one way from our vantage point in this physical reality is a completely different story in a different dimension, different space, different time, different planet. Yep. So what we see, there's this child.
Well, we have time zones running simultaneously.
Right.
We're in multiple universes
at different
simultaneously.
Simultaneously.
So that's what quantum jumping is about. The quantum jump idea is to there's another place where we're going, the same actors are in, you and everyone around you are in the same situation, and it has different versions of it.
Yes.
I think that happens. I think we quantum jump a lot more than what people realize, because you know how you're really, let's take your friend, the person who said they were in that car accident, and it was the wife whose husband was too, both of them, and the person who was in that really bad accident, how he made it through and everybody cooperated, that could have been a quantum jump.
That's true. And I feel like that happened because I said to you, even I feel like one version of me got into that car accident, and when I came out of that car accident, another me emerged. I definitely felt that there was two different parallels.
And that could be very, very true. That's why sometimes that quantum jump happens, is you have something that distracts you.
Yeah.
And it happens that way. I had one time this probably sounds preposterous, but it was the truth. I had one of the swinging chairs, and so on, and I would have what was called in those days satsang, where people were gathered, at my house, and we had company of truth, right?
Yeah.
And it had a huge spring. If you've seen any of these, it was hooked into the ceiling, and it had a huge J-looking
spring. Yes.
And it had a big spring thing. And somebody came in, and she goes, out of the blue. I mean, I sat in that chair because nobody else would. I sat in that chair just to make room for people, and she was one of the first ones. I think she was the first one that came. Anyway, she came in. I was sitting in that chair many times, and she goes, out of the blue, she goes, Nancy, do you think that's going to fall? Your chair is going to fall? And I looked up just in time to say, no, I don't. And it fell from the ceiling and hit my third eye.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Might have been one of the gifts I got. The chair fell down, of course.
I wasn't living into that parallel universe until you mentioned it.
I had this big bump out of it could have killed me. I mean, when you think about the ceiling stuff.
Yeah.
It didn't even hardly hurt. I mean, it was an interesting time.
Val says,
we have a lot of things. I'm sure people listening have had many things happen to them, and they should not be taken for granted. They probably have been gifts and opportunities and wonderful things.
I agree. Val,
if they got an M on their hand, they've had many, many wonderful miracles that they've done and also happened to them. If not here yet, but they will be.
Yes. I hardly see a way to navigate our life from infancy into adulthood and beyond, where we don't receive blessings. I think every day there's a blessing. There's something that we miss. Like we're very Mr. Magoo about it. We go through life not even realizing all the things that could happen, but don't. And that is a great reason to be grateful every day.
Yep. Gratitude is you recognize the gift.
That's right. Val says, I've been trying to automatic write and I just cannot form the words yet. I'm not giving up. I got a journal book for it. And then says, I refuse to give up. It's in me and I have faith in myself. So my feeling on it is, it's when you want to do an automatic writing, you don't want it to be from the ego, or it's the ego that can be the cause for the block. So trying to think about it, and then
you may be trying too hard.
Yeah, that's going into the heart space. It's the same thing
that people have with meditation that say they have trouble with meditating. They're trying too hard.
Right.
The conscious mind may be trying to control, and what I would do some breathing and just do some breathing before you try to automatic write, and just say, I'm here, just put your pen on the paper, and then what's going to feel like you have an urge. I think for me, automatic writing feels like an urge. So maybe everybody else has a different idea. Maybe they'd like to bring their experience in. But for me, it's like an urge, and then you just start, the urge just keeps going, and that's your automatic writing.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Ash said something similar to you. Did you hear me before when I told you Jennifer was here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
I know. She said she was going to
be. Jennifer says, be beyond what life shows. Find clearness and true understanding in our feelings. Don't feed anger. Just be yourself and lightness a beacon.
Absolutely.
This was so nice. I'm so glad.
She's back in California now.
I know. Okay. So just want to make sure that we answered all the questions for everyone.
If we did, we can do it next time.
True. Processing guilt and shame, Nancy, is there any commentary on that before we wrap it up?
Say that again.
Processing guilt and shame. Getting over the guilt and shame that comes after being angry.
Guilt is a total waste. It's not godly. There's nothing good about guilt. It's a dark chatter that wants to keep stirring things up. And you said guilt, and what else?
Shame.
Shame is, if we're here to learn and we're here to make mistakes because we needed to learn what we don't want, and so on. Shame is the same place as guilt. There's no need for shame because you're denying the fact that you were supposed to make the mistake. So you realize if you feel shame, that means you have a conscience, and that means you don't. It does nothing. The biggest thing that would help that would be to acknowledge, I'm so thankful that I got something, a way to understand that I don't have to, I'm here. I made mistakes, but I'm here moving forward.
Agreed. And then forgiveness is the ultimate. When we forgive ourselves and we forgive the other, we free ourselves out of the situation and give ourselves and each other liberation. Forgiveness is for
the person who judged or was judged. And then, it's the highest of gifts on that level because it's usually not the person who did the problem that is asking for forgiveness. It's usually the person who was the victim.
Yeah. Well, the victim wants to feel.
Well, I think they're both victims. I mean, they both. Are.
Sorry.
I mean, victims and victims get victimized. Masters don't get victimized.
That's true.
They master. So I think guilt and shame is a misunderstanding of why you went through that.
Yeah. And also too, just give yourself grace. God gives you grace. You can pray for God's grace.
And there's mercy, and there's nothing new on this planet. It hasn't been done somewhere else. There's nothing new here.
Yeah.
What we're going through may be a whole new version to it because we're going into the higher levels, and everything's in the now. So, there'll be newness to it, but the third dimension doesn't have anything new because it keeps going around circles.
Well,
cycles.
One thing that I feel is important is that, when we started out these podcasts, they were spiritual in nature, and they still are. But they're the truth. It's all about love. Maybe we started out in love because we talked about what is going within me and what is forgiveness. And we spoke about something that was more maybe considered a higher vibrational conversation. But this conversation is so relatable. Everybody goes through anger. And how do we deal with it? This show tonight gets to showcase why in the beginning we started out where we did, or how do we get there? And that's like being able to talk about these things. And this is something I have every month. I have a shadow work and surrender class, and Nancy has classes that she teaches as well. But it's expansive, and it's liberating, and it's fun, and it's insightful to sit in a room, whether that room is online like we have in this forum or in person, and grow with the other people and create that chain of growth and wisdom and understanding and exchange, and know somebody is here for me, somebody understands me. Like, there was someone that I spoke to a while ago who said, before coming to this podcast, I felt like I was alone. I felt like I was by myself. And how many people in the 8 million that are on the planet feel like what they're going through is unique and that they're by themselves? And what this podcast gets the opportunity to do is show you that you're not by yourself, and that we all go through trials, tribulations, learning. And if you could just hold the nugget that love is the answer, love is all that's real, and know that you have a guiding team, whether both in physical, where you have these great people around you, or internally you have the inner guiding system and God's in the breath, or that, you praying to God and having a whole network of spirit and energy and Christ consciousness that loves you. You are the furthest thing from alone, and there's ample help to surround you and uplift you through anything you go through. And that's where the power is. It's in yourself, and it's in what you surround yourself with. And the more aware and conscious you are of what is around you, or what you let be around you, and what you let be inside of you, determines your life quality, your happiness, your enlightenment. And it's just this beautiful evolvement. Like Val was talking about the mandala flower earlier. That's exactly what this is. This is what expansion is in real time. So cool to watch. Any parting last words, Nancy?
No, I think being loving to oneself is the name of the game, and I think guilt has no place. It's the chatter. Chatter is the one who invented guilt. That chatter that comes through our minds, and we think we're not the mind. We're not the chatter. We're not the mind. The voices that that come through. Well, that's not. We're not them. They're on their own. They're something different, and they're not bright and shiny. So no. I think the guilt goes to that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no reason to feel guilt if we're learning. I mean, if I correct it, what's the point of going through all this and correcting something if I have to feel guilty or be judged? I mean, what would be the point of learning if that were the case?
Right.
I mean, why would we even do it?
Well, I think it's like also too, like the seriousness of sometimes if we're not aware of the higher picture, we either learn by what somebody dictates to us, or how we come to see things where, oh, there's consequences. Your behavior led to serious implications or serious consequences. And because we have a fear of consequence, we don't want the negative thing to happen. We might accidentally generate more opportunity because of that fear, as opposed to...
I think people know that. I think people know that.
Yeah. It was nice when I learned that. Separate yourself from it.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us. If there's any particular subject that you would like to speak about next Wednesday, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll discuss it with Nancy, and we can figure out how to fit that in. Any questions, we're available on Instagram, Cosmic Tea Hour 999. You can message us. That's where we have one of our platforms. You can leave a message here on YouTube or reach out to me personally. Thank you so much for being here to watch with us. We love you. Sending love and happiness. And thank you so much for being here with us. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Good night, everyone.
Good night.